and Ritu. We'll take this up with our next guest on the show. This and, of course, a lot more. Dinshaw, Irani, CEO of Helios Mutual Fund, is with us. Dinshaw, hi. Great to have you on the show. Never a dull moment when it's the RBI these days, whether it's individual entities or, overall regulation. This is still a draft, as Ritu pointed out. But just your broad thoughts, because right now, banks, NBFCs, your PFC, REC, there's all the lenders are reeling under the impact. What do you make of things?
So, Surabhi, a very good afternoon to you and your viewers, and thank you for having me on your show. The fact is that the regulator, I think, is being more prudent, and he's, I think, trying to be a bit more cautious here, given the fact that these long gestation projects are normally the ones which become a bit wobbly around the time of high interest rates and stuff like that. So I think that's what is preempting the RBI to come out with these kind of new norms. Though it's a discussion paper, but I'm sure nothing much may change at the time when it comes out as a final draft. The fact is that, as you rightly mentioned, all these project financiers will see their capitals getting compressed, provisioning going up, and stuff like that. So it's obvious that it'll be a bit more heavy on the valuations as such. Anyway, these guys weren't cheap, right? I mean, they were already rallying a lot. I think some kind of prudence is creeping into the market in these names, I suppose. So I'll leave it here, I suppose.
Dinshaw, afternoon. What about the private sector banks and financials? Any changes that you made to your portfolio? In the past, you've spoken about liking HDFC Bank, but there's so much happening with Kotak Mahindra Bank, for instance, right? First, the bad news, but now valuations are looking attractive. So talk to us how you would approach private sector banks and what are the changes that you've made to your portfolio, if at all?
So, Reema, actually, we've not done much in our portfolio on the private sector front. Even the new guidelines, the proposed guidelines by RBI don't impact them much because they're more of consumer-facing banks than really the project financiers as such. So we haven't done much here, but we've already been, as we've pointed out to you guys, that the major banks that we have focused on, HDFC is a big chunk of that, and we continue to be bullish on that bank. In fact, we are so bullish on the financial sector overall, because I think with the one thing is given, right, that there's massive underpenetration in the country in terms of personal loans as a percentage of GDP and stuff like that. So it's obvious that the consumption, as and when it grows, it'll need a lot of financing and a lot of penetration. So that's why we're, in fact, so clear on this particular theme or trend going forward that we plan to launch actually a financial services fund focused towards this sector itself. It'll be a healthy mix of, and actually, you've seen that the financial sector is not limited just to banks. It's got a lot of other players too, NBFCs, market-facing players, gatekeepers, wealth managers, and stuff like that. So I think that is the area to focus on, and that's why we'll be launching this new fund.
Okay, interesting one. Hi, Dinshaw. Good afternoon and good to see you in. What about the stock market plays? The markets are seeing increased participation. Talking about under-penetration, well, participation in the equity markets has been growing, but still got a long way to go. And if that's the case, there are various plays, brokerages, wealth management companies, stock exchanges as well. I think in the past we've discussed Motilal Oswal as well as MCX. You can correct me if I'm wrong. But NSE as well came out with its set of numbers on Friday. And a lot of interest out there in the unlisted market. How are you all currently positioned? There probably could be another large exchange that list. BSE and MCX, as it is, have run up big time. And some of these other companies, Angel One, Motilal Oswal, you have Anand Rathi, they have actually done quite well. So your view?
So Nigel, actually, we agree with you. I think the stock market participation, though it's been going up, but still just scratching the top of the iceberg as such. You can only see some amount of participation. Actually, the bulk is yet to come. And if you look at the cash markets and the futures market, you see the wide difference, right? So it's obvious that very many people were more interested in speculation rather than actual investing. And that's where we guys come in, as in the mutual fund space comes in. This is where really the wealth creation happens for individual investors. And all. You can already see that in form of the way the SIPs have gone up. And that's actually a vote of confidence for the industry as for the way the SIPs have been moving. I think that's the way going forward. And as you rightly pointed out, there are quite a few components within the markets also. When you talk about equity markets, probably that's the end product, but they're wealth managers, they're brokers, there's the demat account holders, the NSDLs and CDSLs of the world, and the exchanges itself. right? So these are the kinds that you would look at. And obviously, you mentioned NSE. The results were phenomenal. They did the numbers were fantastic. So obviously, we're awaiting. We do not invest in the private markets, but we are waiting some amount of. Whenever the IPO comes, obviously we'll be one of the participants given the kind of valuation. If the valuations are attractive at that point in time. One correction I want to bring in is we filed for approval for the financial services fund, and as and when it comes, we'll be launching that soon.
Okay, all right. Just to take that correction on board, but in terms of stock market, the exchanges that you'll have exposure to, BSE and MCX, both of them, or was it just one of the two?
No, it's just one of the MCX actually, not
MCX.
BSE.
Got it.
So, Dinshaw, that's a lot on the financial services side. Tell us, what else is exciting you and your fund managers right now? Technology, we've seen the bulk of the earnings. There's no real sign of an uptick in the numbers or even in management commentary or body language right now. And then there's the consumer space. What else are you folks liking?
So basically, Shruti, actually, the result season has been a mixed bag, totally. There have been some surprises on the upside. There have been lots of disappointments on the downside. I think the disappointment far outweigh the surprises. Fortunately, we've been on the side of surprises. We've seen at least the financial sector reporting numbers which have been taken very well by the markets. You saw what happened after ICICI Bank reported or HDFC Bank reported, and obviously all the other NBFC like Chola and all, when they reported the numbers, they were taken very well by the markets. The second space that we are looking at, and today, unfortunately today, that space has not been doing too well, is basically discretionary spends. Apart from tourism, which is mainly hotels and other sectors which are ancillary to tourism, I don't think other sectors have been reporting good numbers per se. So we'll have to wait it out there. Frankly, the way the liquidity crunch is there in the market today, demand also has taken a bit of a dip. And I think that has to pick up at some point in time. But I think these are the sectors which will do phenomenally well once we start going back again.
More on this consumer discretionary, where looks like a bit of a pause in the kind of uptrend they were reporting. What else have you observed, and what would be a good entry opportunity? How long will this weakness last that we're seeing?
So basically, Reema, the fact is that I think this quarter of June itself, again, is going to be a bit more disappointing quarter, given the fact that elections have taken up almost half the quarter, will be taking up, half the quarter. And then the results will come out, and obviously people will anticipate a budget after that. So the June quarter itself, I don't think is going to be that exciting again. Maybe slightly more worse off than probably the March quarter numbers, which will be seen by the end of May. I think all the numbers will be reported. So these two quarters, if you let go, probably from there on, you'll see some kind of once the budget also is out of the way, basically, you'll see some kind of an uptick again happening in the markets as such. So that's why we've been fairly cautious in our space. We've been fairly conservative in our investment strategy and fairly picky too.
Just last point on consumption, Dinshaw, and I'm talking about staples FMCG now. I don't know if you had a chance to hear the Britannia commentary. Now, A, Britannia posted 6% volume growth, which was better than expected this quarter. And B, the management is claiming that things will pick up. They see a revival in demand and, they think their market share will increase. Do you share that optimism on, consumption at the bottom of the pyramid? Because this is the one part of the market which has been a non-starter. Do you see a rally at some point in time picking up here? How are you positioned on this part?
So we actually, in the case of staples, basically the company you mentioned, they were lucky enough to see their raw material prices correcting a bit. And despite price cuts that they undertook during the quarter, they saw expansion in margins, mainly because of the raw material prices coming off. And I think that's what helped them. Actually, the cut in prices pumped up the demand, and obviously because of the volumes that took off, they saw expansion in margins. That won't play out for too long, right? The hope is that El Nino will kick in and monsoons will be great and stuff like that. I think that is what is playing on their minds. By the way, most of the companies that came out with the numbers, they also said that we're looking at good numbers, but probably it'll be more back-ended in the year than the front-ended one. So I think everybody's hoping for a good monsoon, so are we. And once that comes in, I think things will normalize much faster than what is happening now.
Okay, all right, Dinshaw. Always a good chat with you. Thanks a lot for stopping by and filling us in with your view. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to chatting up with you soon, and keep us informed with regard to the new funds and the approvals you're getting. I believe some of those funds have done well already from launch. So good on you all. Investors are happy, and we look forward to chatting up with you rather soon.
Thank you, Nigel. Thank you.
Well, for the time being, let's take a short break. As always, when we come back, Nimesh will be joining in to tell us what he's picking up in terms of dealing room action. Later on, we'll get you some technical picks as well. You don't go anywhere.